On a beautifully cloudy Friday in April, Jacob and I took a trip to Beloit, Wisconsin to watch the opening day matchup for the Beloit Sky Carp. They play at a nice little ballpark about an hour south of the Capitol in Madison and about an hour and 45 minutes from downtown Chicago. To further double down on the Midwestness of this game, the Sky Carp were playing the minor league Chicago Cubs affiliate, the South Bend Cubs, from South Bend, Indiana. The Sky Carp clearly hoped to pack the house for opening day with this move, and we did see a good amount of fans in the stands wearing Cubs gear. But in the minors, it's not uncommon to see people just wear gear for the major league team that's closest to them, since, that's the one that plays on TV. We drove out to the ballpark a little early so we could walk around and see the park a bit, and right as we showed up, we had a truly novel experience. So we parked nearby in a lot near City Hall, and when we walked up to the main gate in right field, it was closed, which was odd for opening day. So we walked a little further and asked a staffer at the suite entrance where we should go to get in, and she directed us around a side of the stadium where there was in fact no entrance. We did have a nice little river walk on our way to the only open gate, bizarrely right behind the batter's eye. The river and the Sky Carp nearby were beautiful, but it was also very cold, and we would have preferred to just get to our seats. But hey, it's opening day, so we could let one or two things slide. Since we were there on a Friday, the Sky Carp were playing as the Supper Clubbers, which is their main alternate identity for 2025.
For those of you who are not up on the joys of everything Wisconsin has to offer, supper clubs are one of the state's coolest local institutions, and they're a beloved part of the social fabric, especially for older Wisconsinites. Plenty have now modernized to be more like normal sit-down restaurants, but the old-school version is a 3-step restaurant. When you arrive, you sit at the bar and you order cocktails. Then you wait until a matron asks if you want a table, and if so, they prep it for you while you drink at the bar. Wisconsin's most famous local cocktail, that you can order while you wait, is a brandy sweet old-fashioned. If you'll give me some grace that everybody makes these things a little bit differently. Brandy sweet old-fashions are a traditional old-fashioned of bourbon, bitters, sugar, ice, and an orange peel garnish, but with some major twists added. You replace the bourbon with brandy, muddle orange slices and maraschino cherries at the bottom of the glass, and then mix it with some combination of simple syrup, maraschino cherry juice, or orange juice, and then you top it with lemon lime soda. It's a far sweeter twist on the cocktail, and it's wildly tasty. So, you have 8 or 9 of those at $5 a pop, and then by the time your table is ready, you don't really care how the food tastes. Which might be good, because in this reporter's humble opinion, restaurants in Wisconsin do not seem to be huge fans of salt. Once your table's ready, they will sometimes have a spread waiting for you in the traditional German style. Rolls, pickles, hard-boiled eggs, etc. And you then order your appetizers and your entrees. The menu is usually a mix of traditional German or American fare. Fried fish, especially on Fridays, schnitzel, steak, brats, you get the idea. Some notable local appetizers that make menus a lot around here are poutine and fried cheese curds. The latter especially due to Wisconsin's proud status as America's Dairyland. Once you've consumed exactly 3 million calories, you then head back to the bar for dessert, which is traditionally ice cream drinks. These are ice cream-based spins on milk cocktails like pink squirrels and grasshoppers, and they're really, really good. You then pay the bartender and you stumble on home or to the next bar. Supper clubs are a lot of fun, and I really recommend that if you get the chance, you go try one. But for all the fun of Wisconsin's drinking culture, it should be noted that every county in the state reports drinking heavily. The Tavern League is one of Wisconsin's most powerful lobbies, and we have more bars than grocery stores. Also, your first DUI here carries some shockingly low penalties. Drunk driving kills, and please, please, please never do it. Transit alternatives desperately need to be a thing in a lot more places, but just please under no circumstances drink and drive. It rolls the dice with people's lives, and it's just not worth it. Now there's a question about this team that's probably on your mind. We all know what a Sky Carp is, but what's Beloit? The earliest known inhabitants of what is today Beloit are the Ho-Chunk people, who were the primary folks who lived there until 1832, before many of their people were forced out in the Black Hawk War. Many Ho-Chunk people still live in south central Wisconsin today, and the tribe is one of dozens with federal recognition. According to the Wisconsin Historical Society, the origin of the town's name is disputed, but it seems that the name Beloit came from a French word meaning handsome ground, and the spelling was fashioned after the city of Detroit. Beloit is the second biggest city in Rock County, Wisconsin, which is one county south of Dane County, where the capital of Madison is. It borders a town called South Beloit in Illinois, which, on the fastest route from Madison, you actually cross into on your trip to the ballpark. It also borders a town with the exact same name in Wisconsin, which, if you've ever had to do research on Wisconsin, is a really annoying thing that happens here sometimes. In general, places in Wisconsin have about 5 total names for things, and there are tons of streets and towns that share names with cities and towns hours away. Beloit is no exception, and the name is actually so common, it's one of 7 places nationwide notable enough to warrant a mention on Wikipedia. Again, we all know what a Sky Carp is, but in case you need a refresher, Sky Carp are Canada geese that just kind of chill. Usually geese migrate, but some exist in a sweet spot where they become what people who are really into goose research call resident populations. I know that doesn't sound all that intimidating as a team mascot, but if you live near a lot of geese, especially ones creating a year-round militia compound in your neighborhood, you know that can be a big problem. If you think I'm exaggerating, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service reports,
at airports, resident Canada geese have become a significant safety threat, resulting in dangerous takeoff and landing conditions, costly repairs, and fatal airplane accidents resulting from bird strikes. Excessive goose droppings are also a health concern and have contributed to the temporary closure of public beaches in several states by local health departments. Agricultural and natural resource damage, including depredation of grain crops, overgrazed pastures, and degraded water quality, have increased as resident Canada goose populations have grown.
Bears and gray wolves may be intimidating, but they're not coming to destroy your crops, poison your water supply, and literally take your plane out of the sky. But what about the Sky Carp? You know, the baseball team.
The team picked the name Sky Carp because, much like the geese, Beloit's residents think the town is a great place to live in. It's a name they've had since it won the fan vote in a Name the Team contest held in 2019, but Beloit baseball actually goes back to 1982. They started out as the creatively named Milwaukee affiliate Beloit Brewers before updating their brand to the far cooler Beloit Snappers in 1994. Over the years, they've been affiliated with 4 different major league clubs, most recently teaming up with the Florida Marlins in 2021. We're going to stick a huge pin in that for right now. The team has spent the vast majority of its history playing single-A ball, which is currently the 4th and lowest tier in the minor leagues, but in 2021 moved up to the 3rd lowest tier known as High A. The team won their only league title as the Snappers when they took the single-A crown in 1995. The Sky Carp play at ABC Supply Stadium, built in 2021, in large part through private funds raised by new ownership. This move almost definitely saved the team because the Snappers had been one of the teams scheduled to be eliminated in Major League Baseball's brutal restructure of the minors. We're also going to stick a pin in that one for now. The team has a bunch of supposed rationales for their colors on their brand story site, which is a sincerely incredible piece of propaganda written like the team's branding was handed down from God. If you have the time, you should absolutely read it. We will link it in the description. But honestly, if you look at their current color palette, it's pretty clear this is a heavy push to Marlinsify the club. You can even see the colors get increasingly Marlinsy as the logo went through revisions. Unfortunately for team management, it was cold. The high that day was in the mid-40s and it was drearily overcast, but they did have out those tall fire warmers you see on bar patios in the winter. Those were pretty nice, especially if you were waiting for the at-bat to finish while you were walking back to your seat or anything like that. We had great seats for this game, just a few rows behind the visiting dugout, and we got them for only $14 a piece. Ticket prices in general are way better in the minors, but these were awesome. You can really see, though, that the team uses them as a loss leader because they're making it up by a mile in concessions. It's a bummer if you want to come to the ballpark to eat, but it does mean that more people can get in to see the game, which creates a great atmosphere. Any way you slice it, this stadium is nice. Clean even by opening day standards. There were lots of places for the little kids to play games or hang out, and a solid range of bars and concessions. In June, I don't doubt this place would be really fun, especially if you could just walk across town to see a game. While we were sitting around watching warm-ups, we saw this cool guy. He's just hanging out. He's up there. A World War II veteran opened the festivities with a rendition of God Bless America, which he performed just before the national anthem, which was just a recording of a band. I was very confused because they had someone there to sing already. I'm not certain why they didn't just have him sing the national anthem. He had a lovely voice, totally could have pulled it off. The baseball was a little rough around the edges, but all things considered pretty good. There was some usual minor league favorable scoring, as well as some possible errors that were scored as hits and some plays that you want the pros to make that got missed. But at the end of the day, it was a fine game. Nothing really to write home about in terms of on-field play, besides that we did get to see this guy, Thomas White. In high A ball, you're not usually seeing prospects too close to the big time, but White is currently the #1 prospect in the Marlins club system. He had a pretty good start to the year too, giving up no runs on 1 hit with 7 strikeouts over 4 innings. I really wish the weather had held up better. It got colder and colder as the night went on, and at one point we watched the game from the team store through the window because my feet were very cold and baseball games are not worth an amputation. It was a pretty nice store, and I've never seen a store have an owner's book on sale before. The Sky Carp have pretty good team gear, though it was a bummer for the Supper Clubbers stuff that they didn't have more merch with this logo. The little old-fashioned guy is cute, but to us, Wisconsin with the oranges and cherries is a real gem to have on a shirt or a hat. It's so cute I might even consider getting it as a tattoo. This is the hot dog report, so we obviously had to start the year with a dog. There weren't any exciting specialty dogs at the ballpark food stand that we went to, but Jacob found one later that we did have. I actually suffered a major L on my first hot dog of the year because I tried to get mustard and ketchup, but their sauces weren't labeled very well, so I accidentally got mustard and barbecue sauce. So I will be docking points from the Beloit Sky Carp for their condiment labeling. However, barbecue sauce on a hot dog is not that bad. It's not very good, but it's better than I thought it would be. The dogs we got were very bog standard, normal hot dogs. Nothing special, but also not a waste of your money. So we would give them a 5 out of 10. Later in the game, as I mentioned, it was freezing, and I remembered there was a mac and cheese booth, so I asked Jacob if he would go get me some mac and cheese, because I thought it would be filling and warming, and he seems to have gone on some kind of journey and returned with a hot dog with mac and cheese on it and fries, which is not what I asked for, but close. As you can see, the structural integrity of this dog left a lot to be desired. The hot dog itself was somehow better than the first one, but the mac and cheese is a little bland and could use some more salt because everything in Wisconsin could use some more salt. This one is getting a 6 out of 10. The food highlight of the game was the frozen old fashioned. This is a Supper Clubbers Friday special. It's essentially the brandy sweet old fashioned that we described earlier, but as a slushie. It cost way too much. Tipping 20% on the large size that we got cost an eye-watering $25, but it tasted incredible. That's really good.
Yeah, right?
Oh, this is the drink of the game. The frozen old fashioned. It is 46 degrees.
Clearly something they were planning on before it was 46 degrees.
That's really good though. We also saw their mascot, who was kind enough to take a photo with me. He is a Sky Carp named Poopsie, which is something that you can technically name a mascot. But he has a really well-designed costume, and the kids clearly love him. As the rain began to pour down in the later innings, the Supper Clubbers pulled away and ultimately took the game 7-0. There were post-game fireworks scheduled for this game, which we would normally wait around and see, but it was only getting colder and wetter, so we went through the gift shop and snuck out the suite entrance that we saw when we came in. Sometimes you just want to make it back to your warm car and your warm bed. Our day at the ballpark was ultimately a bit of a mixed bag. The biggest problem was the weather, but that's not really a baseball issue. The warmers were super nice, and they were clearly trying. With that said, I think if they had had a warm drink option, like maybe a cider or a hot chocolate, they would have made a ton of money. And also a frozen drink rollout is really tough timing no matter how delicious it was. Here's our final scores. Hot dogs. Good, not great. 5.5 out of 10. Other concessions. The mac was meh, but the fries were good and the old-fashioned was amazing. 7 out of 10. Uniforms and merch. The Supper Clubber stuff was great and had fun local flair, but the regular ones were nothing to write home about. 6.5 out of 10. Gimmicks and promotions. In general, the experience here is fun, but feels like it's trying way too hard to tell you it's fun. The games they play between innings are cute, but feel obsessed with keeping fans entertained the entire game. At one point, the umpires even got upset that the entertainment went on too long. There were also 3 race-like activities: the condiment race, which was around the bases, kids chasing a guy dressed in a ketchup costume across the field, and the build a smashburger race. These things in combination made things feel a little frantic. I love baseball, and I know it's boring, but there's a point where management feels unsure if a stadium full of people who paid to watch baseball actually want to watch baseball. Also, not that it really matters, but the cap shuffle was super easy to guess. 5 out of 10. Facilities. No footage to show here, that's weird, but easily some of the best in the minors. This is a relatively new stadium on opening day, and it absolutely showed. If you want to nitpick, there was a faucet that leaked, but really, who cares about that? 9 out of 10. Ticket prices, as mentioned before, were excellent. 9 out of 10. Scoreboards. Okay, so this is something that we didn't really have a chance to talk about anywhere else in the video, but it is weird. The home team scoreboard graphics were fine. It was a little bit of a bummer that they were all branded with Sky Carp branding and not Supper Clubbers branding, but the away team ones were an absolute train wreck. For the entire game, the away team had this crazy quilt kind of design on the scoreboard, which made parts of the board actually unreadable. The pitch count ran into the batter graphics, so it was white on white and entirely invisible. The kerning also made pitch counts hard to read, and perhaps most egregiously, the wrong team was displayed as the visitor for the entire time. The board itself looked fine, and it really worked for the home team, but these graphics were wrong for the entire game, and no one fixed them. So 2 out of 10. Stands culture. Midwest Nice was definitely felt at this game, and we had some great conversations with folks sitting around us. However, there was a disappointing moment with an older gentleman we were speaking to. When I mentioned how well Thomas White was playing, he seemed shocked that I was a woman paying attention to the baseball game I was at, and you just hate to see that kind of thing. 9 out of 10. Labor union ads. None. Sad. No bonus points. Proximity to lodging. While we didn't use it, good. 2 hotels in walking distance gives them 4 bonus points. In terms of atmosphere, this is a very family-friendly park. There's plenty for kids to do, there's special kids sections for them to play and watch the game, there's hopscotch and even a bouncy house. The only note is that it maybe borders on just a tad too kid-friendly, since you will occasionally encounter a pack of unsupervised children, and it's also a decently large stadium for its league, so might be a little bit concerning if you're a parent. However, I do think it's impressive that they were able to pull off this vibe in a place so alcohol-forward, so 8 out of 10. Club affiliation. Every team in the minors does a balancing act of sorts between what can be 2 very different goals. They want to be their community's local baseball team with an identity close to them, and they also need to serve as a sort of branch office for their major league affiliate. There are plenty of teams that pull this off really well. The AA Reading Phillies, or Fightin' Phils as they were recently renamed, have an identity almost identical to their parent club. But because Reading is an eastern Pennsylvania city that's very similar to Philadelphia, this works really well. Even changing the name to Fightin' Phils had a lot of fans begging them to change it back to just Phillies. The flip side of this is the Dayton Dragons, the high A affiliate of the Cincinnati Reds, who have an almost completely unique identity despite being practically down the road from the Great American Ballpark. This works really well for them because they've developed their own well-established reputation as Dayton's team, and any efforts to strictly Redsify them would probably be received really poorly by locals. The Sky Carp are the story of a team trying to split the difference between these 2 approaches, and one that left us ultimately feeling a little weird about it. They're paying a comic amount of lip service to being unique to Beloit, but it's glaringly obvious they also need to keep Miami happy. While ABC Stadium is a really fun place to watch a game, the team's hype building around the Supper Clubbers alts feels like they know the brand they chose just isn't as local. Fans did vote on the name, as the company responsible will tell you, and Sky Carp did win, but it also just feels like a name that was more convenient than optimal. There are plenty of geese in Beloit, but the fish name and the color scheme, a color scheme that was decided on after the poll, make it really obvious what this team is. And while the Marlins have always had one of the best color schemes in baseball, it does not feel like something that was chosen to represent the Wisconsinites who live in Beloit. Also, for a team as food-forward as the Sky Carp, naming a mascot Poopsie is just gross, and if you'll excuse the pun, reeks of trying too hard to be a Marlins corporate-approved amount of edgy, especially when an easier joke is 1 letter away at Sky Crap. To us, it seems really apparent what happened here. To get the stadium built and the team established, ownership needed to put a lot of work in and make deals to keep the Marlins happy, and that's honestly fine. MLB's restructure was brutal. Fans in Beloit would understandably be upset that their local club was scheduled to be abandoned so the majors could tighten their grip on the tiers of baseball below them. The restructure was a tragic situation, but for all its complexities, new ownership have undeniably pulled a rabbit out of a hat, and did so with an impressively small amount of public funding. With the Sky Carp under a new name and in High A, the team's status, if you can call them the same team, essentially changed from being fired to being promoted. We don't live in Beloit, so it's hard to say, but as the old stadium sits around gathering dust, it seems reasonable to think that fans could come around to the new product. We even heard a guy a few rows back from us talking about how much better the new stadium experience is, and that can't really be forced. But something that definitely can't be forced is trying to mythologize a team into something they aren't. Good baseball, run like you've been doing it before, will clearly sell in Beloit, and the Sky Carp can absolutely be the team that sells it, as long as they're willing to make any sort of emotional break with the Marlins. This rebrand was notably award-winning, and they tried to involve fans in their decision, and the team has some pretty good PR. But despite this, a few years in, it seems that everyone involved knows it's not an ideal setup. But treating the situation as more of an everyday reality to be owned and worked through, rather than insisting it isn't there, would go a long way. All that to say, we're going to score their club affiliation a 3 out of 10. That brings our final score for the Beloit Supper Clubbers to 68 out of 100. We would absolutely go back to see the Sky Carp, and probably will because we live so close, but preferably on a warmer day. Despite a few kinks left to work out, it's a good day of baseball and absolutely worth a day at the ballpark. What if this pitch just came right to us?
Oh? No, not quite.
Ooh.
Would have been funny though.
No, I was thinking like, what if it just like flew right at the camera? Smashed my phone in my hand. It's over. Wrap it up.
Attempting to record without the express written consent of Major League Baseball getting nuked from space.